A very good Sunday morning to you from the KTN News Center here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. Even in the middle of the coronavirus global pandemic, we hope that you find a way to mark this important day. On the program this morning, we focus on the parliamentary warfare that has been ongoing, especially inside the ruling Jubilee Party, which now appears to be a Jubilee coalition. Tharaka Nithi Senator KINDIKI has become the latest victim of a purge within Jubilee. On Friday, he was kicked out as a deputy speaker in the Kenyan Senate, although he was praised by almost every senator who took the floor to contribute to the ouster motion filed by newly installed majority whip Irungu Kangata. Party insiders say the Jubilee purge is headed to the National Assembly next. But deeper than that, there has been a feeling of pulling together inside Parliament, political parties putting their differences aside to support President Kenyatta's new crusade. So what is Parliament preparing for? Is there a plan to impeach Deputy President William Ruto? Or is the referendum bill by the National Assembly's Constitutional Implementation and Oversight Committee the ultimate prize? Also on the broadcast this Sunday, a look at President Uhuru Kenyatta's 54 billion shilling economic stimulus plan, an 8-point plan aimed at jump-starting the economy. But the devil is in the details. Where is the money? This is Inside Politics. I'm Ben Kitili. Be sure to stay with us for the next 120 minutes or so as we dissect the biggest political and policy issues in the Republic. My panel is here with me to help me try and put perspective into some of these issues. I have with me political risk analyst Dismas Mokua, senior reporter at The Standard, my colleague Rosalind Obala. I have with me humanitarian and development consultant Cherotich Sei, joining us from her lovely home, as is Mark Bichachi, communications strategist, as well as Kipchumba Karori will be joining us from Eldoret today, from the county of Uasin Gishu. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. Shall be coming to you shortly. Let's now take a look at what happened on Friday as the Kenyan Senate removed the senator for Tharaka Nithi KINDIKI as the deputy speaker in the Senate. Listen to that.
When you disagree with the party leader, you have not disagreed with your party. And that is a mistake of KINDIKI.
Was there charges from the move of the motion that was sent to your office, and your office facilitated the deputy speaker to receive these charges, so that, Mr. Speaker, we don't turn our Senate into a kangaroo court?
He should cite the standing orders, which states clearly that their charges are supposed to be given to the deputy speaker or the speaker when such a motion is tabled.
When you look at the standing orders, the procedure of removing a deputy speaker or even a speaker, we do not have such kind of a rules where you are supposed to give reason.
This is a political process which has been initiated by his party Jubilee. All I have to say, Mr. Speaker, to my good friend Professor, is that we loved you, but Jubilee Party loved you more. I support this motion.
My dear brother, your goose is cooked. The best you can do is to leave and fight another day.
We are chopping you now, and I'm sure even in our side, I hear rumors we are also about also to be chopped. I know soon it will be Kabaka to be chopped, or Mutula or somebody else. So there is no, it is the right thing.
Accept these things that are coming on you because they make you stronger. They make you they bring out the best of you. They'll make you who you really are.
I rejoice in my tribulations. Harboring hate against them would work in their favor. Therefore, I freely forgive those who have crucified me.
So KINDIKI's colleagues in the Kenyan Senate singing praises, who sounded like dirges really, as they led him to the slaughterhouse. A lot of them saying that they did not have a choice. 54 senators voting to remove the Tharaka Nithi senator from his position as deputy speaker. 7 of them, only 7, coming out in support of him. Now, there has been question being asked, where have the numbers that the Tanga side has been claiming? Let's listen into one of those people who have been supporting the Tanga side, that is the nominated Senator Millicent Omanga. Let's see how she voted.
Senator Omanga Millicent. I vote yes.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, help me put this into perspective. Roslyn, you covered this story. Just give us a background of this.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, I did cover this story, and it was quite an interesting process, being that this was historical. This is the first time we are having a deputy speaker actually put on the dock, and fellow senators actually have to speak on his removal. If you look at it, just what you have said, that it looks like political parties are regrouping. Maybe the agenda is to fight one person, if you look at it, because from the start of the removal process, there was the issue of where are the charges, what are the charges that are making the senators to remove the deputy speaker. And if you listen to the speaker's communication, he said the office of the speaker, and that extends to the office of the deputy speaker, is a constitutional office. And the grounds for removal are actually stipulated in Article 106 of the Constitution, which lays the ground for the removal. But if you look at the debate that took place on Friday, it was not about the grounds, it was about party loyalty. So now that actually extends to Parliament, and it also extends to deliberations in the House. Being that the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker or the members of the Speaker's panel are supposed to be arbitrators, it now raises the concerns that if we have a Speaker in the House, are they supposed to represent their parties when they sit on that chair, or they are supposed to arbitrate the business of the House? And that is where, if you look at the mover of the motion, that is a majority whip, Senator Kangata, he was at pains to explain the reason why he had actually sponsored that motion to remove Kindiki. Because if you look at all the laid out grounds, the only reason they put out was that it was the resolution of the House. And all members pegged their argument on party loyalty. And if you look at the other party members that you're talking about that have ganged up, they said, we are helping Jubilee to clean the House. We are helping Jubilee to ensure that party members are loyal. So now when we come to Parliament, it means that we are not actually going to stick on what is happening in the House, but it is going to be, what does your party want?
All right. Mark, let me come to you. Good morning. That has been the debate, what Rosie is saying, that Senator Kindiki failed to attend that parliamentary group meeting at State House, Nairobi, a week ago. So it is about disloyalty to the party, not about his performance or competence as a deputy speaker. What are we thinking?
Ben, to say that it's about attending a meeting would be to a bit to trivialize the issue. The real issue here, and Senator Orengo made it very, very clear, is that Jubilee had gotten to the point where it had two field marshals that were commanding its army at any given time. The highlight of this, of course, came when the meeting that was at State House, you had the president calling for a meeting, and Rasputin, as Orengo would call it, telling people not to attend the meeting. And the fact is clear that if two people do not agree, they cannot work together, and a house divided against itself cannot stand. Now, if you look at those facts, then Jubilee had to ask itself a very simple question, that will we continue to have a leadership that is split down the middle, or will they have a united front? Secondly, I honestly think that it is a bit wrong to say that Jubilee was unfair in removing the deputy speaker. That position is by election by senators. And that election, one was simply chosen by his political party. And if that is the case, then majority leader, whatever position you have, the party does reserve the right to withdraw you. And if we're going to be a country that is built on multi-party democracy and not built on briefcase parties, as Dismas calls them, then we must also respect party discipline. We can't have our cake and eat it too. We cannot hate party discipline and then claim we love democracy. Those two things can't go together. Party discipline has to be there for political parties to exist. Otherwise, it cannot even be called a party.
All right. Dismas, what happened on Friday has elicited a lot of reactions. The Deputy Speaker position is a very crucial position in the Kenyan Parliament. Do you think what happened on Friday was right?
I mean, in my view, what happened Friday should go down in record as a best practice. Because let's ask ourselves, how did Professor Kindiki get this position? It was through a Jubilee parliamentary meeting where members were told, this is our lineup. So the Deputy Speaker is going to be Professor Kindiki. And they were given a lineup of everything. So if you are elected in that manner, then you should be prepared to exit in that manner and stop making a lot of noise in the process. And also the fact that that motion did not have any charges, it's actually not necessary to list 20 charges and say you committed this error, an act of omission or commission. The thing is, the moment the party leadership loses confidence in you, then it's a wrap, you go home. And we should encourage this so that all political parties have got members who are disciplined, who are loyal either to the political party or to the leadership. Because in Kenya, really, we don't have political parties. Those are special purpose vehicles. But if you have taken a decision to join a particular political party, you must be loyal to the political leadership. You must be loyal to the party leader. If for some reason you don't want to...
Interesting that you mentioned that, Dismas. Some pundits have been saying that Kindiki's mistake or offense was not being loyal to the party, but not being loyal to the party leader. Is it the same thing?
No, it would work in a mature democracy where you have a party leader and you've got a political party with structures. In Kenya, political parties are merely special purpose vehicles. So the person whose word carries the day is the party leader. So when the party leader summons you for a meeting, and for some reason you decide to flip the bird on your party leader, essentially treating him with contempt, what else would you expect? He's going to lose confidence in you. He cannot trust you to run his agenda at the National Assembly or Senate. And it's very clear that Kithure Kindiki has not been kicked out on the basis of lack of meritocracy. No, he's a very solid guy. When you speak with his colleagues at the Senate, they say he's very sharp, very likable. People like his ability to take decisions. But in this kind of situation, if you're not loyal to your party leader, you will take a walk. And if for some reason you think that maybe Jubilee has become a dictatorship, then you resign, you go run for an election as an independent. You cannot have it two ways. And this should extend to all other political parties so that you avoid a situation whereby you have, for instance, Aisha Jumwa, who is supposed to be playing with the ODM team. All of a sudden, she is now Jubilee in opposition. Or you have somebody like Otsosi, who is supposed to be on ANC and is in ODM. So people must learn to run their politics by principle. If your party leader has lost confidence in you, do not even wait to go through the entire motions. Take the earliest opportunity to resign. And I like what Professor Ongeri told his colleagues and Kithure Kindiki, that you must respect your party leader. If you're not going to respect him, don't join the political party, or if the environment is not tenable, take a walk, run as an independent.
All right. Chero, good morning. Dismas here says that if the political party that sponsored you to parliament and the position you're in loses faith in you, then you don't have a choice but to go. What about if the members of the Senate, like happened on Friday, they seem like they hadn't lost faith in the Deputy Speaker? Is that necessary for a position like Deputy Speaker, do you think?
I found it very interesting because I watched the proceedings from beginning to the end. And one of the things that struck me quite seriously was the fact that we as taxpayers are spending a lot of money for these kinds of theatrics. But I would like to say that when I looked at listened to the senators saying how much they liked the now former Deputy Speaker, I realized, and to disagree slightly with this much, that political parties are really only about personalities. And I do agree that ultimately the former Deputy Speaker had to be removed because he was considered disloyal. So that was par for the course. And I think everybody who was sympathizing with him was saying, whoa, I hope when it's my turn someday, if I step out of turn or speak out of turn or do something, that you will also be sympathetic towards me and empathetic towards me, as if to kind of soften the blow of what was an inevitability. But the other thing, when I listened to all the yeses and the emphatic noes, I got the sense that the yeses were fairly timid, especially those, I think, who may have wanted to vote differently, but because this is about personality loyalty, they ultimately had to vote where their political party personality had instructed them to vote. But if we go back in history a little bit, Ben, you know, dissent within parties, what is perceived as disrespect, is not necessarily new, as people have agitated for change within their political party structures. Go back to 1991, John Keane, when he vociferously opposed many things that KANU was doing. And in fact, he eventually left, but he left on his own. He was not expelled. You know, he was not, he was able, if you think of Raila Odinga himself when he was in Fort Kenya and how vociferous he also was. So this is not unusual that you have dissent within parties. This has happened from time immemorial. I suppose the issue is what the party decides to do with you to make an example of you. And I also found it quite interesting to watch how ODM also voted in favor of his removal, and the erudite Senator Orengo speaking about Rasputin and Tsar Nicholas, who we also understand tanked the economy of Russia. So maybe that was a very fitting description when he was making the comparison. But I see them all sitting happily there, sipping his cup of serves you right, Kithure Kindiki, and a slice of Kulawaya. So it was a combination of people gloating, people feeling sorry. But if you also think to J. Edgar Hoover's famous habit of dirty files, you can be sure that there are enough dirty files floating around. You don't find yourself there by accident without people knowing what you have done and where you have been doing it. So at the end of the day, you're told, toe the line or a similar fate will befall you, or we shall institute certain proceedings against you. But like I said last week, with the creation of this, with this scorched earth policy that Jubilee Kieleweke is taking, you're building a powerful underdog. Now, one could argue this underdog is not powerful if you go by the numbers that voted in the Senate on Friday. But still, I want to just say that this story is not over yet. And as Kenyans, we are promised a lot of entertainment at our expense, literally, while these games continue.
All right, Dismas. From this discussion, there seems to be a thin line between party democracy and party dictatorship. Where do you think this one tinkers over?
Well, you know, when you look at the way political parties in Kenya are formed, if they were anchored on an ideology or a philosophy, then there would be party democracy. But political parties in Kenya are formed by tribal leaders who've got a lot of numbers from their bases and who have resources. So essentially, somebody will decide in the morning that I'm going to form a political party. So when he forms the political party, it becomes his special purpose vehicle for political power.
Okay.
So it's very clear. When you join this political party, you are not joining it because of maybe their philosophy on global warming or on AIDS or on maybe taxation. You are joining because this personality is going to assist you go to the National Assembly or Senate or the County Assembly. So essentially, you are going to run on his brand to win. So this person has got a valid expectation. Because you are running on my brand, you will be dancing to my tune. I'm sure when you look at these campaign posters for all these seats, they would have maybe Raila Odinga and then the person who is running for governor. Raila Odinga is more prominent than the person who is running for governor. If you're running for MCA, maybe it would be Musalia Mudavadi with the person who is running. So it means you are not running on your own motion. You are running on these political parties, the party leaders' political capital. So then, when you join it, you know the rules of admission. You are going to dance.
Even if they're bad manners, you have to stick by them.
I mean, you've got a choice. You don't join a political party on gunpoint. Like, for instance, if you come from Lunyanza, you have the choice to say you're going to run on Jubilee and establish your probability of winning. Right. But when you join, dance by the rules. But you know, politicians have got the chance to run as independents to avoid all these shenanigans.
I want us to talk about the political ramifications. Mark, obviously the purge that has been ongoing inside Jubilee has been, you know, a battle to take control of the party, what Dismas usually refers to as Jubilee A and Jubilee in opposition. obviously, being targeted has been the DP, William Ruto, and his lieutenants. What do you think are the political ramifications of what happened on Friday, to be specific?
Let me correct a few misunderstandings here. Number one, no one has been kicked out of Jubilee Party. If they had been kicked out of Jubilee Party, they would have been de-whipped of their Senate positions. What has been taken from them is the positions of leadership within Jubilee. Now, why is that distinction important? It is important because we need to understand that the way we've structured our governance in this country is that the president requires lieutenants and loyal lieutenants at that within the National Assembly. That is how government business in the House is handled. Now, you cannot expect in your wildest imagination that you would choose a lawyer to represent you, who the first thing they will say in a court of law is that you're guilty. Now, we can try to pontificate it all we want, but the truth of the matter is, what is it that Murkomen or Kindiki or the rest was standing for that was so horrible in Jubilee? If indeed they were standing for something, as John King was or as Odinga was, then they would have substantive issues. For example, they say Uhuru is a dictator. But a dictator of a party that you want to stay in, that does not make sense at all. And therefore, what is the political ramification of that?
Yes, finally answer my question.
Yes, the political ramification of that is that finally a line has been drawn in the sand. And the line is, by the way, not about individuals, as people would like to understand it. The line is about, do you support the president's agenda vis-a-vis the Big Four, the fight against corruption and uniting the country? Or are you going to be the kind of person who defends Sonko in court, so you are against the fight against corruption, who calls BBI conmanship? And that's really the line that we need, because we need to know for a fact whether Jubilee is going to do the Big Four agenda, whether it's going to deliver on BBI or not.
Mark, do you think, Mark Bichacha, do you think that the Jubilee Party is going to suffer any dents in its support base, that is Mount Kenya East? That is a question you're pussyfooting from, as you like to say.
I was talking about the political implications for the senators and Tangatanga Kieleweke. On the ground, let me tell you, Ben, the popularity of a Mount Kenya politician is the same as a candle in the wind. Mount Kenya changes its politicians, 3/4 of them every election. I would not say that the fate of the political party is dependent on one politician. We were told the same thing when Kiunjuri was fired. I can tell you for free, not a blade of grass has changed in Mount Kenya.
Roslyn, what have you heard in terms of the replacement of Kindiki as a deputy speaker in the Senate? What is Jubilee likely to be thinking about?
Maybe just before we go to the replacement of Kindiki, I think one thing that we need to put clear is that even as the political parties instill discipline in their leadership, and if you look at the current constitution, which we have a pure presidential system, we have the office of the leader of majority, and we have the office of the majority whip. These are the direct representatives of the government. And that is why the position of the speaker and that of the deputy speaker, the candidates apply, and both sides of the House vote for them. And they're expected to be impartial and not to take sides. And now when we have a parliament where we are talking about the office of the speaker being an office that propagates the interests of the ruling party or the party that have sponsored them, then I think the parliament itself, that is supposed to be an independent arm of government, then has lost it to the executive. So that narrative that we are instilling discipline to the extent of even a constitutional office should not hold. But again, what is the crime of all these people? You have a party that sponsored you to parliament, and you're bound by the dictates of that party. So in this case, the crime of Kindiki and the rest was failing to attend the PG meeting, which is very crucial for a party to plan their plans in Parliament. I think the problem that we had was a sponsor that brought the motion to Parliament. They should have crafted it in a way that it will have brought out the issue of why the Deputy Speaker was to be removed, and not say that one of the reasons is that he allowed a motion against Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Because again, that negates the entire process of that constitutional office that we hold. Now, coming to who will replace Kindiki, from the start, we heard that they had approached Wazingishu Senator, that is Senator Margaret Kamar, to replace the professor. But again, we heard that they had also again approached Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, who again said he was not interested in the position. The last time we heard that the position had extended to ODM, where now they were approaching nominated Senator Judy Pareno, or Kilifi Senator Stewart Mathayo. But those are just names which are being floated. By yesterday, they were talking about approaching Makueni Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr. So we don't know who exactly will go for the position, but again, it's a position that people will apply, and then the members will elect who they want to become the Deputy Speaker, because even Kindiki was not selected. He was elected among other senators who applied, including Narok Senator Ledamo Lekina.
Mark, let me come for you for a quick second. Rosalind mentioned something that I've thought about. Do you think, vis-a-vis what you've been saying, don't you think that the executive is stepping onto the toes of the legislature?
I do not think so at all, because remember, this, in as much as the legislature is independent, it is co-dependent to the executive. Even the United States, which is a presidential democracy, you tell me how much Republicans rally behind the person of President Trump, even when he's obviously wrong. I'm not saying that that's what should happen in Kenya, but in a presidential democracy, yes, the executive does have representation and does have expectation in the House, and that includes the Speaker. Look at what Nancy Pelosi is doing to advance the cause of the Democratic Party within Congress.
Okay. Chero, do you see a clear distinction or separation of powers between Parliament and the executive?
Not at all. You know, we have been on this show and in other spaces talking about how, at least I've been saying, how I see that the executive is captured, the judiciary is not yet captured, but is well on its way to being fully captured and compromised, and the legislature is definitely captured. So for me, from where I sit, this is not at all surprising that such games would be played out in the House of Parliament, and that the Senate will be at the mercy of the executive ultimately, because this is what it is all about. If the Senate is there, constitutionally mandated to protect and oversight devolution, and we have this referendum bill 2020 coming up, and the BBI that we were told the reggae cannot be stopped, and this referendum is coming. And if you look at what it portends for devolution, you can already see how all the threads of the fabric are being woven together to create picture where ultimately the Senate has been captured. So of course they are not independent, and whatever they do will be at the whim of the executive.
All right, thank you. You're watching Inside Politics here on KTN News. Many thanks for staying with us. Time for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we shall stay on this, talk about the parliamentary warfare that has been ongoing, a support of the president's ruling party, Jubilee Party, by a lot of the other parties, minority parties. ODM is yet to sign any formal deal with the ruling party. KANU, Independence Party, has already signed a post-poll deal. Wiper Party, we understand, is lining up, has said they are willing to work with the Jubilee Party. So what is Parliament preparing for? The minority leader in the Senate, James Orengo, did say that the Senate will be very crucial in the coming days.